Hey there, everyone. I'm meteorologist Cassie Knoll, and this is your 10 Weather Impact Recap for the week. Let's start with a look at our top weather stories. Not entirely weather related, but still earth science. Kilauea volcano is erupting in Hawaii. The eruption initially began in late December and has had a few pauses along the way, but the lava began to flow again as the eruption resumed last Wednesday, the 16th. Fountains of molten rock spewed more than 200 feet into the air as visitors flocked to the overlooks in the Hawaii Volcanoes National Park on the Big Island. Kilauea is one of the most active volcanoes on Earth, and this eruption is not threatening any homes or infrastructure. After more than 2 months of darkness, the sun will rise for the first time this year in Ukagvik, Alaska, formerly known as Barrow, on Wednesday the 22nd. This community is the northernmost town in the United States and in all of North America, and its location north of the Arctic Circle is part of what makes it so cold. This is a live look at the town. The sun last set on November 18th, and while they will only have 48 minutes of daylight on the 22nd. Daylight length will increase until they have 24 hours of sunshine beginning in early May and lasting throughout the summer. Speaking of daylight, President Donald Trump has said that one of his goals while in office is to permanently do away with daylight saving time. So let's start with a little history. Daylight saving time was first adopted in World War I as part of a way to conserve fuel by reducing the need for artificial lighting during the day. And since then, we've been changing our clocks twice a year. The U.S. did briefly try to go to permanent daylight saving time in 1974 and 75, but it then repealed it the same year. And you may recall that back in 2019, Tennessee passed a law that would have made daylight saving time year-round. But those laws can't truly take effect until Congress passes the law, which they have not been able to do. President Trump is planning to keep standard time year-round, which would mean that we would not spring forward in the spring season, and our sunrises and sunsets would be an hour earlier in the summer. So here's what things would look like if we did away with daylight saving time and stayed in standard time throughout the summer. You would notice the difference during, near, and around the summer solstice. So this is what things would look like in June at 6 a.m. during the sunrise time frame. Currently, when we're in daylight saving time at 6 a.m., we're still a little bit on the dark side in Knoxville. But if we move to standard time, we would already have the sun coming up by around like 5 a.m. Then as sunset came around at 8:30 p.m. right now, because it's daylight saving time during the summers, we get that beautiful daylight until almost 9 p.m. But if we stayed on standard time throughout the summer season, by 8:30 p.m., it would already be dark outside. So that's the difference we would see in the Knoxville area. This is something we'll be talking more about as we get closer to this time frame. Now, thousands of people are also without homes in California as firefighters continue to battle wildfires in the Los Angeles area. That fire has destroyed at least 6,000 structures, and many people are still not allowed to return to their homes along with their pets. At this time, officials have not determined the cause of those fires. The Palisades fire has burned more than 23,000 acres and is 59% contained. And the Eaton fire has burned more than 14,000 acres and is 87% contained.
We continue to have over 600 soldiers, all dedicated directly to ensuring the safety of those affected by the Palisades fire and to preserving the security of their homes and properties. We currently have 43 traffic control points and patrols in operation, as well as multiple security missions and roving patrols.
Southern California is currently bracing for another round of Santa Ana winds and dangerous fire conditions. There was another red flag warning in effect at the start of the week. A growing brush fire developed overnight Monday night in San Diego. The lilac brush fires have burned more than 80 acres and are 0% contained. There are 4 different brush fires burning in the same area north of San Diego. Those fires are threatening some structures, and evacuations have been ordered in those areas. Continuing our headlines, another story is that the northern Gulf Coast is seeing heavy snow as Arctic air stretches into the deep south. At one point, blizzard conditions were taking place near Lake Charles, Louisiana, and winter weather alerts stretched from Texas to northern Florida and into the Carolinas. NBC's Priscilla Thompson was on the ground in snowy Houston Tuesday morning with the latest.
Across the Gulf Coast, tens of millions are waking up to a rare sight: snow. Throughout the region, schools and businesses are closed. In Houston, all major airports shut down. Some airlines also stopping service in New Orleans, where snow is expected for the first time in more than 15 years.
We're not a snow city, so we don't have plows or salt spreaders.
The state borrowing those resources from Arkansas as officials urge residents to heed warnings.
Get prepared to be in your house, in your residence, in your warming place for the next 48 hours. This is a serious Arctic blast. It's dangerous. It's life-threatening.
Another concern, potential power outages. Electric company CenterPoint Energy says they've staged trucks and thousands of workers on the ground in Houston to respond.
We're scaled and ready to go for this storm.
Parts of the Rockies, Northern Plains, and Upper Midwest are also stuck in a deep freeze, with feels-like temps ranging from -30 to -55 degrees. Michigan State Police responding to multiple crashes, including this one involving more than a dozen vehicles. As this morning, the South gears up for a once-in-a-generation snow day.
I feel like a little kid. I can't wait. I can't wait for the snow.
My parents are acting the same way. Now, cold air is gripping most of the lower 48 east of the Rocky Mountains, and in Washington, D.C., President Donald Trump's inauguration was moved indoors on Monday because of the frigid temperatures. The last time the ceremony was held indoors was Ronald Reagan's second inauguration in 1985, when the temperature was only 7 degrees. While Inauguration Day is typically cold in D.C., snow fell on Sunday, and highs were only in the 20s on Monday, with wind chills in the single digits. Former President Barack Obama's first inauguration in 2009 was the only other sub-freezing high temperature on Inauguration Day. And we've had our share of cold and wintry conditions in East Tennessee. Gatlinburg looks like something out of a Hallmark movie. 4 to 6 inches of snow fell in parts of Sevier County over the weekend, and the winter caretaker up at the LeConte Lodge reported 14 inches of fresh powder. With the cold air staying in place, that snow is not melting very quickly. Folks are having to take precautions when it comes to the cold weather, and we've had a couple viewer questions that we would like to answer. The first is from Margie Collins. She asks, is it necessary to leave the water dripping in your faucets inside your home when the temperature is below 32 degrees? Well, Margie, at 32 degrees, no, you shouldn't have to drip your faucets, but it also depends on the design of your home. Now, when the low temperatures drop into the teens and the low 20s for multiple nights in a row, and the daytime highs stay below freezing, yes, you need to drip your faucets. It can help your pipes from freezing.
It allows water to circulate through the system at a slow pace because, as we know, as water gets cold, it starts to freeze, it'll expand. You also want to open up the cupboards as well to let that warm air flow underneath the cabinet.
You should also seal your windows and doors and guard and insulate those pipes, preferably before it gets cold, but now is still the time you can be doing that. Now, with these cold mornings, many of you may be wanting to warm up your car before you start driving. Bryce Stevens sent us an email asking if warming up your car can actually damage the engines of newer model vehicles, and he wants to know what the best approach is. Well, it's all in the length of time that you leave your car running and how cold it is outside. It's not generally advised to just leave your car running for more than 15 minutes, unless, of course, your windshield is iced over and you can't safely drive. Now, that's especially true the colder that it is outside. The colder weather can cause your oil to thicken, which can cause wear and tear to your vehicle. However, just because it can happen doesn't mean that it always will. And again, there are a lot of factors that come into play. Now, you may be looking forward to these cold temperatures for one reason: fewer bugs. Some of you have reached out to see if this stretch of cold weather will at least help reduce the number of bugs this summer. Meteorologist Tavian Whitehurst is here with the answer.
Even if you're not a big fan of the winter season, you gotta admit one of the best parts about winter is that all of the bugs from the rest of the year go away. They hibernate. But Ellie Davis dropped an interesting question to the weather team just a couple of days ago. Will these cold snaps kill off more bugs before summer than a warmer winter would? Definitely an interesting question, but there's a couple details that go into it. So, of course, we've been talking about the very cold weather that we have had as of late. But when we have cold weather here, we're measuring by air temperature. Always remember that it gets colder as you work your way down towards the surface. However, once you go under the surface, underground into the soil, it's actually a little bit warmer, and that is where those bugs go to hibernate. So, unfortunately, with that and with the sense that it is a little bit warmer, those bugs do not just die off when it gets too cold. Plus, a lot of bugs are cold-blooded, so they don't really die in cold weather. They just stop functioning. Think like the iguanas in Florida when it gets just a little bit too cold. They're falling out of trees. Same concept. They simply stop activity. They're not expending energy when it gets too cold. Then when it warms up, they're back up and moving. So winter is less effective against the bugs compared to the spring. Now, what we did learn from Neil Denton in particular, our expert in things of this nature, dry, low humidity conditions during maybe upwards of 3 weeks between March and April, that can do what is called desiccating the bugs. And that is essentially just drying them right on up like a raisin. So if you want some of the bugs to die off, you've got to hope for a dry spring, but it's kind of a double-edged sword because we never want to get too dry here in East Tennessee because we're always worried about fire risks. So again, no, unfortunately, this extreme cold that we are seeing is not going to be getting rid of those bugs come summertime.
Tavian, just the messenger with that one. Now let's take a look at your 7-day forecast. We have more cold air on the way until we get into the day on Thursday. That is when we should start to see the majority of our viewing area finally getting back up above freezing. Going into the weekend, we may even get into the 40s. Now that's still below average for this time of year, but at least it's a little bit better. Long-range outlooks do show that we might finally get back to or even slightly above average as we move into the month of February, but we'll keep you up to date. Thank you so much for watching, and remember, you can always get the latest forecast with the 10 News app. It's free to download in the App Store.